Hey there, my name is Zach, and you are watching a video about mental health. More specifically, I'll talk about bipolar II and my experience living with it. My intention with this video is to help the average person understand bipolar disorder and to help people living with it. Basically, bipolar disorder is associated with mood swings of depressive lows to manic highs. Life is like a roller coaster during these episodes. There are two main types of bipolar disorder I will describe. First is type 1, which are full blown manic episodes, as well as depressive episodes. There are mixed episodes as well, where you can have symptoms of both depression and mania at the same time. Next up is bipolar II, which includes hypomanic episodes and depressive episodes. The key difference between these two is that hypomania usually doesn't require hospitalization when unmedicated. From personal experience, mania can easily land someone in the hospital or in cuffs. Bipolar disorder is primarily genetic, but there are environmental factors that play a role. Now I'll get into what I deal with more specifically. I was born bipolar, and it began as a toddler with severe anxiety. When I got out of my comfort zone, my stomach would get upset and I'd vomit. That continued into high school, and even is a problem sometimes today. After I graduated high school and went into work for IT, I had to quit my first job because I was vomiting every day consistently during my shift, and I was losing weight from not eating. I went to the doctor and finally explained what was going on. The first line of treatment for anxiety generally includes antidepressants, and I went on an SSRI. I recognized depression in myself for the first time after quitting, and I thought I ruined the rest of my life by quitting that job. I isolated myself in my room because I felt like a failure, and I didn't know what to do. I started having mood swings where I would cry for no reason, and then it would be over, and I'd be like, the hell was that? I would even laugh about it sometimes. I went to my doctor for a second time, and he decided to try a different SSRI. I continued to have depressive episodes. Then I became hypomanic, and the first thing I did was watch a YouTube video about starting a Shopify store. I followed the letter of the video religiously, and I thought I was a genius who was about to pull myself out of my depression. I got the idea on a Saturday at about 3 p.m., and I got the online store up and running with a few products within 12 hours. The next few weeks I focused on marketing, trying to squeeze sales out of the site. I saw my doctor again, and he recognized me as manic. I blew him off, not even asking what that meant. After the business failed, things got much worse. Instead of just having mood swings, it was like my mood was down for the whole day. I wasn't sleeping much, and I would start crying the moment I woke up sometimes. I spent many early mornings researching what was wrong with me until I finally stumbled upon the answer. Bipolar II. I thought about what my doctor said and fought my mind constantly, unable to sleep, just waiting to see my doctor again. Upon getting there, he recommended me go inpatient to a hospital so I could see a psychiatrist and get a diagnosis. The way he recommended me to do this was to go to an emergency room and tell them what's going on and that I need to be admitted. My family and I tried this. We went to the ER after a week of me not sleeping or really eating. They decided to give me a shot of Ativan and send me home. I slept that night and things were a bit better, but then we were waiting on a weekend to see my psychiatrist. It was a weekend from hell. There was one moment where I wanted to shut my brain off from the constant racing thoughts, and I thought the best way to do that was to run in the backyard in over 100-degree heat with my shirt off. Pasty white boy mistake, I know that now. The reasoning with that was I thought if I exhausted my body enough, I would just, kind of collapse and because my body needed sleep. Yeah. My parents sensibly got me to stop. My mother had to stay with me 24/7 for weeks because I was in so much emotional pain from the combination of hypomania and depression. There were good moments, though, with the hypomania. I was the life of the party. I'd talk quick. However, I was much more irritable. I would walk laps around my backyard listening to music, resulting in days where I would walk up to 9 miles. I made it to my psychiatrist, and I was put on Latuda. I was warned about potential weight gain, but coming out of my hypomanic episode, I'd lost about 10 to 15 pounds I didn't really need to lose. Latuda helped with depression, but it made me so anxious that I was breaking down constantly. It also gave me restless leg syndrome that would make me miserable. The psychiatrist got me off of Latuda and onto Lamictal, and I ended up wanting to die. I wished to fall asleep and not wake up constantly. I opened up about this to my therapist and psychiatrist, and they wanted me to go inpatient. This time, we drove up to a behavioral health hospital, and I signed myself in. It was an experience I didn't know I'd get. At first, I was welcomed by people who wanted me to open up, and I just wasn't in the mood for that. I was a mess. I was crying when they took my picture. It took a tech named Elvis Presley, and that was his real name, sitting down with me for at least 30 minutes, and he opened up to me about his experience with depression in the past. I never had anybody do that with me, and I was able to reach out for help after that. Later that night, I spent about an hour talking with a nurse and another tech trying to get me off the proverbial ledge. I had walked up to the nurse's station and told the nurse I just wanted to die. I was put on something called the 5-minute queue, where they would check on me every 5 minutes. Over time, and with med changes, I was doing better, and I had made some great friends. I was discharged after 9 days, and I went back to my call center job working about 45 hours a week. A couple rough months go by, and I end up with a plan of killing myself. I didn't have intent, but I would think about offing myself with carbon monoxide poisoning. I told my mom I had a plan, and she misunderstood what I meant. A couple days later, I told her the full story, and then I signed myself back into the same hospital. I was nearly despondent when I came in this time, but a nurse recognized me when I walked in, and they immediately asked me to help somebody who had just gotten there and was having an anxiety attack. I shuffled over and did what I could to ease them. This day went a lot smoother, and I was put on an antidepressant called Cymbalta. This will be important later. At this time, it was March 2020, and the day I returned to work, I had a breakdown as I was starting. I was crying on the phone with a customer, and that was a personal rule that I broke. I went to the bathroom and decided to quit after 5 months of that company. Later that day, it was announced that all of the company would be working from home starting that day, which resulted in a shitstorm the service desk had never experienced since the contract started. I also started attending an IOP, or Intensive Outpatient Program. It's group therapy 5 times a week, and I still go to this day. My mood started to come around during April, and it continued to stay good until July 15th. This was caused by a medication change on June 30th. I went on the maximum dose of Cymbalta, and then was started on Trintellix when that didn't work. Trintellix made it worse. I had 3 plans to kill myself in late August, and when I signed myself in a 3rd time, they doubled my dosage of it. I got to a point where I would set myself up in a chair, close my eyes, and just cry. I couldn't open up to anybody because I didn't think they could help. One day after lunch, I went and sat in the hallway against the wall away from everybody so I could cry. Techs would come by and ask if they could do anything for me, and I said no every time. I even started hitting the back of my head against the wall, my first act of self-harm in my life. I only stopped because I knew what would happen if somebody saw. After a while, a tech sat down with me and talked to me. A tech got assigned to stay with me all day, and that was ended about halfway throughout the day, after I had started opening up. We realized that the problem was with Trintellix, so I stopped taking it, and my dosage of Cymbalta was slashed in half. I came out of my 7-day stay doing really good, and went right back into IOP. Another week later, and I felt irritable one day, and it built up into a rage that night. The next day, September 9th, I tried taking my dog on a walk, and I was sent into a rage. I went to IOP and tried to calm down outside. I started punching a concrete table, and then I got up to go inside. I knocked to get let in, and then after a few seconds I went fuck it, and went outside and punched a brick pillar a couple times. I walked in and my knuckles started swelling. We now know it's a Cymbalta withdrawal, so I went back up to 90 milligrams. It is now 6:14 a.m., and I started writing this script a couple hours ago. I started this morning at 1 a.m., and look at where it's taken us. I hope my story can help shed a light on this disorder, and for those that are battling it or know somebody who is battling it, it will get better. It takes a lot of work and a combination of treatment approaches. Treatment is not one size fits all, but medication, therapy, sleep, diet, exercise, and social support can ensure you live your best life with bipolar disorder. Thank you for watching.